This is just some reminders of concept of factoring techniques. I'm going to show you a couple of things. We're going to really talk about the zero product property. We've actually already used the zero product property. I've already showed it to you. You just didn't realize that we were doing that. If you have a favorite way to factor, like your algebra teacher taught you your favorite way to factor, please use that way. I'm going to show you my way. If you're like, I don't really care for that way, that's fine. Let's just make sure that your way is viable and it works every time, okay? So we're going to do example 2 through 8. There's going to be a couple that I'm going to go off on a little tangent because I want to show you how I'm going to do it. The first thing that you ever have to do when factoring, the first step is you need to look to see if any of the numbers have a GCF. I know that sometimes I forget to do this, but when you're solving and you're doing this, you want to make sure that you've pulled out the GCF, especially when you're going to use the zero product property. So in example 2, the first thing we're going to do, it doesn't matter if you have 2 numbers, you have 3 numbers, you have 4 numbers, the first thing you always want to do is pull out that GCF. So on number 2, does 20x squared and 15x have anything in common? They have a 5. And do they have any variables in common? They have an x. So the GCF is 5x. So I'm going to put a 5 and an x on the outside. And then I'm going to decide what's left over. To decide what's left over, it's like a division problem. What is 20 divided by 5? 4. Now, the variables you always subtract. So I had 2 x's. That's what x squared means, to x times x. And I took 1 x away. So how many x's do I have left? I have 1 x left. Positive 15 divided by positive 5. Positive 3. And then I have 1 x. I took 1 x. Do I have any x's left? Okay. So that's what we call factored form. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what the directions are asking. So this is called factored form. What I need now is it to be solved. And the reason I know it needs to be solved is because there's an equal 0. So the zero product property states that we can set both of these equal to 0. So I can do 5x equals 0, and I can do 4x plus 3 equals 0. Okay? And now I'm going to solve for x. So what I'm finding now are going to be my roots, my solutions, my x-intercepts. You guys, we did this yesterday when we graphed. We just don't have to do as much work to find our roots. So I'm going to divide by 5, and this x equals 0. And on this side, I'm going to subtract 3. And then I have 4x equals negative 3. It's funny that I did this problem for you already. And then I divide by 4, and I get x equals negative 3/4. So my answers are x equals negative 3/4 and x equals 0. So if they ask you for the roots, these are the roots. If they ask you for the factors, your factors are 5x and 4x plus 3. Factored form, roots, solutions, x-intercepts. Are we good with that? Okay, so now example 3, we're going to do the same thing. You guys, there's 2 numbers. Usually you're going to look for that GCF. And in this case, what is the GCF? 6a to the 4th power. You guys, if you're ever wondering how to pick the variable, like how do you know what exponent goes on the variable? If they have the exact same variables, you look for the lowest exponent. So 5 is the largest, 4 is the smallest. So they have the smallest one in common. That's how you can figure out the variables, is you just look for the smallest exponent. And now we're going to divide. Well, 6 divided by 6 is what? 1. So you can put that one there. You don't have to. I had 5 A's. Now I took 4 away. How many do I have left over? 1. And then you guys notice that when I did this on the last question, I always said, what is positive 18 divided by positive 6? I say that so you know what sign to put there. Because if it's negative, then you would put a minus sign there. So 18 divided by 6 is 3. And you took all the variables, so we'll close it and we'll put equal 0. Now we're going to use the zero product property and we're going to set them equal to 0. So I would have 6a to the 4th equals 0, and I would have a plus 3 equals 0. Now, notice I left a to the 4th. The reason I left a to the 4th is because you really have to take the 4th root of a to the 4th. Well, it just so happens to be that a to the 4th equaling 0. What number times itself equals 0? It would be 0. So a equals 0. But basically what that means is that you actually have 4 roots that are 0. So this is a longer problem. You would have 4 roots that are 0. Right now, we're not going to deal with that as much. We'll deal with that in the next chapter. But right now, this is what you need to know. The zero product property is not going anywhere. If you took the 4th root of 0, you would get 0. And then it's negative 3. So again, factored form. And these are your solutions, your roots, or your y or your x-intercepts. Are we good with that one?